As we've been watching a shaky recovery play out, more pessimistic data coming out of the New York Fed, a survey showing that U.S. consumers are growing more pessimistic about this recovery in terms of employment as well. And for more on what that survey showed, I want to bring on Yahoo Finance's Cheung, who has the details from that. Brian?
Well, Zach, as you mentioned, the New York Fed survey out this morning. This is usually an update on consumer expectations, more specifically on inflation, whether or not consumers expect to be paying higher prices in the future. But the big thing that caught my eye, and especially that was new given what we're working with in COVID, is really the pessimism over the labor market. So there's a section of the questionnaire, again, which they do about monthly, where they ask respondents to say, do you expect the unemployment rate in the United States to be higher a year from now than it is currently right now? The statistics not looking very good. 35.1% was the figure in June. Again, people who expect the unemployment rate to be higher in a year from now. But this month in July, it was 39.3%. So it did tick up. Keep in mind that as of the July jobs report, the unemployment rate was already at an abysmal 10.2%. So not very optimistic that people expect that number to be possibly even higher 12 months from now. And then secondly, there's also the concern among American respondents that they might be losing their jobs. So this is also part of the questionnaire. In June, the index was about 15%. That ticked up to 16% in this July survey from the New York Fed. Keep in mind that the year ago value before the pandemic was about 13.8%. So a pretty noticeable tick up to 16% in the month of July. People getting concerned that they could be losing their job, even though we're a few months out from the coronavirus pandemic having begun in this country. So definitely something worth watching as we hope to get optimistic about the economy reopening, especially in parts of the country. But based on this New York Fed survey, it seems like there's still a lot of concern about job security in the United States.
Yeah, that's kind of what we talk about here too when we think about animal spirits and the economy and whether or not that confidence is even there. And obviously, there's so many unknowns out there on the health front. No one knows what the winter or the fall is going to look like. So if you do have that jump in potentially losing your job, people out there thinking they might not have a job come the end of the year. I mean, what does that do to consumer spending and what we've seen so far, and more Americans just starting to hoard even stimulus money that they get?
And that's an excellent point that you bring up. This isn't necessarily about whether or not these predictions are right. It is entirely possible the economy could turn around and maybe that 16% comes back down again. And the expectation for the unemployment rate to go up might reverse the other way. But for the time being, what we're seeing is that there is a concern right now about what the economy is going to look like in the short term. And as you mentioned, that translates into reduced consumer spending, perhaps people saving more money, even if there is another round of stimulus checks, which is exactly what the government doesn't want if it does want to give people some help fiscally at this time.
Yeah, and as we were just discussing, maybe it's not businesses shutting down or having to close down. It's also the confidence of consumers out there wanting to spend. But Cheung, I appreciate you bringing us that.